At our baby's naming ceremony, my in-laws changed the program last minute and inserted a family blessing that erased my cultural traditions entirely. When I objected, my husband said, "Let them have this, it's important to them." So, I let them have it. Then I scheduled a second ceremony, just mine, just my family, and just what I needed. And they weren't invited.
I'm Marissa.
I'm 34. I live in Savannah, Georgia with my husband, Ryan, who's 36. We met 7 years ago at a city volunteer cleanup event. He picked up trash like it was holy work. We hit it off over coffee that same day, and 6 months later, we were a couple. Ryan's family is white, old-school Southern, with that polite on the outside thing. The kind that smiles wide but lets you know with their eyes that you'll always be an outsider. My family's from New Orleans and the Sea Islands of South Carolina, Creole and Gullah Geechee. Proud, rooted, full of traditions that run generations deep. When we got married, I already knew his mother, Beverly, was a handful. She wasn't mean, just dismissive. Like when I talked about my background, she'd nod vaguely and say things like, "That's interesting," then change the subject. She wore white, technically cream, to our wedding and told me afterwards she couldn't find anything else that looked good on her. Ryan asked me to let it go.
So I did.
I let a lot go. Fast forward 5 years. I had our baby boy in October, Caleb Elijah. I remember holding him for the first time and thinking, this child is the best thing I've ever done. He looked like both of us, my eyes, Ryan's chin, my nose, his hands. I was exhausted but glowing. A couple weeks after, we started planning the naming ceremony. In my family, this is more than a party. It's a spiritual event, almost like a second birth. You call the ancestors. You speak the baby's name into power. There's prayer, food, songs, and a deep reverence for where the child came from. We booked a hall near my parents' church. My uncle, who speaks Gullah, was going to lead the main prayer. My grandma was going to sing a spiritual passed down through 4 generations. My cousin made white linen clothes for Caleb, embroidered by hand. We kept Ryan's family included. His dad was given a short reading, and his mom was going to light a candle. We didn't cut them out. We balanced the 2 cultures carefully. I thought that was fair. But 2 days before the ceremony, Beverly called. I was holding Caleb, who was colicky and wouldn't sleep, and I was dead on my feet. She said she had some suggestions for the ceremony. I told her to talk to Ryan. I was too tired to go back and forth. That was the mistake. The day of the ceremony, I showed up and something felt off. The first thing I saw was the printed program. It wasn't the one I made. Gone was the Gullah prayer. Gone was the ancestral dedication. In its place, a section called Family Blessing, 20 minutes long, led by Ryan's Uncle Mitch. I froze. I grabbed a copy, scanned the whole thing. My stomach turned. I pulled Ryan aside. "What is this?" He glanced around like I was overreacting. They just made a few changes. They felt like they were barely part of it. A few? You erased my family's role. You let them erase it. They just wanted to feel included. Mitch said he had something powerful to share. Let them have this. It's important to them. I looked at him. He didn't get it. He never really got it. The ceremony started. I stood there with Caleb in my arms while Mitch spoke. For 20 straight minutes, he talked about one true God, Christian unity, tradition through a single faith. He never said the word black, but the silence around it was loud. My grandma sat stone-faced. My mom wiped her eyes. I stood still, my jaw clenched. Afterward, people took pictures. I smiled like a robot. I held my baby close and made small talk. But inside, I was done. Later that night, I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at Ryan. You let your family hijack our son's naming. They didn't hijack it. They contributed. No, I said. They took it. You let them take it. He had nothing to say to that. Just looked away. I didn't sleep much that night. Or the next. 3 days later, I called my mom. I told her the truth. The real version.
She didn't yell.
She just said, "So, what are we going to do?" I said, We're going to do it right. We planned a second ceremony. Quietly, carefully. At our family church, the one my great-grandfather helped build in the 1920s. I told Ryan 3 weeks out. We're doing it again. Just my family. He looked confused.
Why?
Because my family didn't get their ceremony. Because my son deserves to be named in his full identity. And because what happened wasn't okay. He got defensive. So you're excluding mine now? No, I said. I'm balancing the scale. You all got your moment. Now it's ours. He was mad for days. Kept saying I was overreacting. Said I was being divisive. I told him, your mother changed the damn program without asking me. That's divisive. He didn't have a good answer. 3 weeks later, we had the ceremony. It was everything I wanted. My uncle spoke in Gullah, clear and strong. My grandma sang the song I grew up hearing. We lit a candle for the ancestors. Everyone placed their hands on Caleb as we spoke blessings in English and Gullah. His name echoed through that old church like thunder. He wore the linen outfit. I wore white, too, simple but real. No show. Just love. Just truth. Ryan came to his credit. He sat in the back. Didn't smile, didn't frown. Just watched. His family wasn't invited.
They found out after.
Beverly called me crying. Left a voicemail saying she felt erased. She used my word. I didn't call her back. She showed up at our house 2 days later, trying to act hurt. I didn't let her in. Ryan tried to play peacemaker. Said I was being harsh. I said, she still hasn't apologized. Not to me.
Not to my family.
She doesn't think she did anything wrong. He didn't push after that. That was 3 months ago. Still no apology. Still no accountability. But Caleb? He has both names. Both stories. Both roots. He'll grow up knowing what they tried to erase. And I'll make damn sure he never forgets. A month after the second ceremony, things were quiet. Too quiet. Ryan didn't say much about it anymore. He went back to work, started coming home late a little more often. Not suspicious late, just distant. Like he didn't want to talk, because he didn't want to fight. We weren't fighting all the time, but we weren't connecting either. I felt like I was married to someone who watched something hurt me and chose silence. One night after putting Caleb to sleep, I asked him flat out, "Do you think your mom was wrong?" He didn't answer at first. Just rubbed his face like I asked him something too heavy. Then he said, "I think she meant well." My throat closed. That's not what I asked. She didn't mean to hurt anyone, Marissa. But she did. And you let it happen. He got up and walked to the kitchen without a word. I sat there, alone on the couch, listening to the hum of the baby monitor and the silence between us stretch like a crack in the wall. A week later, his mom sent an email. Not to me, to Ryan. He showed it to me like it was proof she was trying. It was a long message about misunderstandings and cultural differences and how sad it made her to feel judged. She said she didn't know our traditions were so important to Marissa's side. My side. Like I was the other team. I told Ryan, this isn't an apology. This is a guilt trip. He shrugged. It's the best she's capable of. Then she's not capable of being part of this family. He didn't like that. Said I was being dramatic. Said Caleb needed all his grandparents. I said, not if they erase who he is. That night, he slept on the couch. The distance kept growing. My mom noticed it first. She pulled me aside one day while I was visiting and said, "Are you okay, baby?" I nodded. Too quickly. She gave me a look. The kind that sees through everything. You can raise a child with someone and still be raising them alone. That stuck with me. The real twist came a few weeks later. I was at work when my cousin texted me a photo. It was from Facebook. Beverly had posted it. A picture of Caleb from the first naming ceremony. Captioned, "The day our family welcomed Caleb in the Christian way, just like we always dreamed." My stomach dropped. No mention of the second ceremony. No mention of my family. Just the Christian way, our family, and what we always dreamed. I stared at it for 5 minutes straight. Then I showed Ryan that night.
His face tightened.
He tried to say, she didn't mean it like, no, I snapped. Stop saying that. She meant it exactly like that. I picked up my phone and commented on the post. This was the ceremony where my family's cultural blessings were removed without permission. Caleb was later named again in a ceremony that honored both his roots. Please don't erase our son's heritage for likes. It blew up. Her friends started commenting. Some defended her. Some asked questions. A few messaged me privately saying they had no idea there was another ceremony. Ryan's phone didn't stop buzzing for 2 days. His mother? She deleted the post. And then she showed up again. This time with Ryan's dad. Knocked on our door during dinner. Ryan opened it, looked back at me like, what do I do? I stood up and walked to the door. You need something? I asked. Beverly said, we need to talk.
No, I said.
You need to listen. She tried to interrupt. I cut her off. You hijacked our son's ceremony. You pushed aside my family's traditions. You posted about it like you did something holy, while completely ignoring the ceremony where he was actually named with love and with truth. I didn't mean, I don't care what you meant. I care what you did, and what you refused to own.
She looked at Ryan.
Are you going to let her talk to me like this? He looked at her, then looked at me. He didn't say a word. I closed the door. Behind it, Caleb started to cry. I picked him up, held him to my chest, and whispered, you are whole, no matter who tries to slice you in half. Ryan sat back down at the table, quiet, staring at his plate. We were both thinking the same thing. This wasn't over. A few days after I shut the door on Beverly and her husband, Ryan stopped wearing his wedding ring. It was subtle at first. He said he forgot it after a workout, then that he took it off while washing dishes. Then he misplaced it. But I knew what it meant. It was a statement without words. We'd barely touched each other in weeks. Everything felt like business, co-parenting, bills, schedules. But there was no warmth.
No partnership.
One night, I sat him down and asked, do you still want this?
Us.
He didn't answer right away, just stared at his hands. Finally, he said, I don't know how to make this better. That wasn't a yes. It wasn't a no.
It was a cop-out.
I asked him, did you ever stand up to your family for me? Even once? He said, I tried to keep the peace. And that meant letting them rewrite my family out of our son's life. He looked at me then, really looked at me, and said something I'll never forget. They're never going to change. I just hoped you'd stop fighting them. It was like being slapped. I stood up. So, you want me to go along with being erased? I want things to be normal. No, I said, grabbing my keys. You want things to be easy. I took Caleb and drove to my parents' house that night. I didn't tell Ryan how long I'd be gone. The next morning, I woke up to a message from Beverly. Not a text. A voice memo. I sat on the edge of the bed in my old room and listened. She was crying. Not performative sobbing, but real, shaking, broken crying. I messed up, she said. I wanted so badly to feel connected to Caleb that I pushed too hard. I made it about me, and I didn't see what I was erasing. I see it now. I don't expect forgiveness, but I needed to say it. I'm sorry. I played it twice. Then again. I didn't know what to feel. Later that day, Ryan showed up.
Alone.
No suitcase. No flowers. Just him, standing on my parents' porch like a kid waiting for discipline. He sat across from me in the living room and said, she finally said the words. I don't know if it's too late, but I think it matters. I asked him, why did it take this long? He said, because you're stronger than me. And I hid behind that. That hit deep. We sat in silence for a long time. Caleb crawled on the carpet between us, giggling at something invisible. His laugh cut through the heavy air like sunlight through a storm. Then Ryan said something else. I talked to a lawyer. I froze. About custody? No, he said quickly. About mediation. I wanted to understand what would happen if you didn't want to stay married. I stared at him. Do you want to stay married? He didn't flinch. I want to be worthy of staying married, he said. But I'm not sure I am. I didn't answer. I didn't cry. Because I was still deciding, too. That night, I put Caleb to bed at my parents' house. Then I stepped outside and called Beverly. She answered fast. Marissa, I meant everything I said. I heard the message, I said. It was a start. She was quiet. I need time. And you need to show, not just say, that you understand what you took from me. I will, she whispered. I hung up. Ryan drove back home alone. I stayed another 3 days. I needed space. I needed to remember who I was without being stuck in survival mode. When I finally went back to our house, I found something waiting on the table. A printed program. From the second ceremony.
Framed.
Ryan had written on the back, "This was real. This was truth. This is our family." It didn't fix everything, but it made me pause. Now the hard part begins, deciding whether I still want to fight with him or against him. I gave it 1 more month. 30 days of trying. Not pretending. Not playing nice.
Trying.
We went to therapy just once. Ryan said all the right things, but his eyes looked tired. Not from work. From guilt. Or maybe from holding in too much for too long. I told him I needed consistency. Apologies were nice, but change was better. He said he understood. But he still flinched every time I brought up race.
Culture.
His family. It was like a wall he couldn't climb, no matter how many handholds I gave him. One night, we were sitting in the backyard, watching Caleb play in his little sandbox. The sunset painted the trees orange, and for a second, everything felt okay. Then Ryan said, maybe we could do a renewal ceremony. One that blends both families, now that everyone understands more. I looked at him like he'd grown a second head. A renewal ceremony? So we can redo the wedding we already compromised on? The one your mom wore white to? The one where my traditions were treated like accessories?
He blinked.
I thought maybe it could help heal things.
No, I said.
You want to put a fresh coat of paint over a rotting wall? He didn't respond. That night, I packed Caleb's bag. And mine. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I left a note on the table. I needed a partner who would fight with me, not watch while I was erased. Caleb will know his full name, his full roots, and his whole self, with or without you. You were too afraid to lose your family, but you lost this instead. I moved back in with my parents for the time being, filed for legal separation a week later. Ryan didn't contest it. He still visits Caleb. He's never missed a pickup. He brings books now, books with black children on the cover. He tries harder in small ways. But he also stopped asking me to come back. I think he finally realized silence is a choice. And sometimes it costs you everything. As for Beverly, she sent a letter. Handwritten. 8 pages. She confessed everything. The manipulation. The need for control. The fear that her grandson would grow up different. She said, I couldn't accept that he wouldn't be just like us. I tried to erase what made him whole. I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I will spend the rest of my life trying to earn it. I haven't written her back. Because some things are earned slowly. But I kept the letter. Caleb's going to read it one day. He'll know what was taken. He'll know what was reclaimed. He'll know his mom didn't let anyone write over his story. And me? I thought I was taking revenge. But really, I was making space for truth, for heritage, and for a life where my son will never have to shrink himself for anyone. Not even family.